Welcome back to another episode of the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB, hanging out with my guy, JD. What's up?
Yo, what's good, bro? How's life been going today since yesterday?
Yeah, I know this is like we ran it back real quick. It's like
Quick back to back like Drizzy.
Yeah. We're like on the back to back right now. Like we're an NBA squad. Took a real tight L last night. We gotta bounce back today. I don't know. The way we started our last episode, it felt like it may be a bit of an L. I don't know. We were all over the place yesterday.
Yeah, I was definitely confused for like half the episode.
Yeah. We did our homework today. We're prepared to really do these linebackers justice. But yeah, everything's good, man. Everything's good in my world. Honestly, the biggest worry I have is whether or not the Lakers are going to make the playoffs right now. So, so if that's my biggest worry, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know, granted, we're not really talking hoops over here, but I mean, isn't like the back half like 6 through like 12, like all like a couple games apart?
Oh yeah, the NBA is wild right now. Yeah, it's like 6, literally. Yeah, you're like 5 through 12 are separated by like less than 3 games. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So every game matters. So, go Lakers. Got it in the background there. World Baseball Classic was last night.
Yeah, that was fun.
The USA, we took an L, but man, Ohtani versus Trout at the plate, like for the game. Ohtani called game, bro, on a fastball. Caught him swinging. I was like, oof. So that was your quick full sports roundup. But we're gonna get into what we do best, and that's football. Joe, who we talking today? What group we got?
Today, similar but not exactly the same. We're looking at linebackers from the edge rushers as we did on the last one. So kicking us off on the linebackers that we're looking at, we're starting off with that guy Jack Campbell out of Iowa. He's 6'5", 249. Played for 4 years there. He's got 36 games in that time frame. 290 tackles, 20 tackles for loss. Percentage of 5% on his missed tackles. 5 interceptions and 3 sacks.
So, first and foremost, Jack Campbell. Doesn't that just sound like a football name? Like just grading the name alone. Now, actually, I'll tell you, we got some dudes in this linebacker group that all have some sick names. I mean, we're talking about Jack Campbell, DeMarvion Overshown, like some just unbelievable football names. Like it sounds almost like you ever saw the Key and Peele skit where they're doing all the names?
Yeah,
like it's like we got all the best names in this group, bro. Like this is the fun group in terms of we got Henry To'o. Like we got all kinds of fun names in this group. But yeah, Jack Campbell, old school football name, old school football player with a little bit of new school.
With it.
Yeah, with a little new school flavor though, because he can run and he's got decent hips. Like he's got a lot going on for him. He's not just like, yes, sure. I think people look at him and, oh my gosh, he's 6'5", 250, and he plays downhill. Then people will call him Dick Butkus, right? It'll be like, oh,
Captain
he's an old
Jack
school
was the
linebacker
nickname that I was hearing.
Yeah, Captain Jack, like for sure. But like when you watch him, he has really good instincts. He does a lot of stuff well. He's a playmaker. He's not just all like downhill, come eat you meathead football player. Like this dude can do a lot for a defense. He can move around. He can play a little bit in the pass game, right? He coverage isn't bad in zone coverage. He's athletic enough that he only missed 5% of his tackle attempts. Like that's impressive. You'll see. That's one of the lower percentages that we've got in this group. I mean, that's pretty good. If you're 5% or less, that means you're like, you never miss tackles. That means you're missing a few tackles a year, and that's it. Yeah. But the first thing that stood out when I was looking at him, I mean, you see over there, guy's got 5 interceptions and 3 sacks in 4 seasons, and really 3 real seasons of playing and production. But like, he's part of a great defense most of his career at Iowa. He always seemed to be around the football. He created 11 takeaways. So he had 2 defensive touchdowns and a safety. So in 3 seasons, this guy scored 14 points, on defense while having 5 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. Like I said, he's got a little flash, glitz, and glam to him for being an old school looking guy with an old school name. All right, so here you go. This is him against Ohio State. This is CJ Stroud. He's not playing against some kind of scrub right now, okay? He's going to get play action, and he's going to get depth in his pinball drop down the middle of the field, and he's actually going to pick this ball off. So here we go. Gets a little play action. He gets downhill. He's going to drop, get depth, pinball. Boom. Makes a great play. Makes a really athletic play. Gets his one hand up there. Pick. Here he is against Minnesota in the red zone. Forces a fumble. His guys get it. Here he is against South Dakota near the goal line. Creates the safety. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here he is against Minnesota again. This isn't this back-to-back possessions against Minnesota. He creates a fumble on the one in the red zone. Now they're near the red zone. He gets a little tip, and he's got enough juice to him to boop, cut back, hit it.
Rumbling, stumbling, tumbling.
By the way, this touchdown won them the game. That touchdown that he had right there at the end, Minnesota or Iowa was down, and they scored that he scored that touchdown on defense to win them the game. So this guy, Iowa didn't have a lot of offense going for him, right? So his touchdowns were real valuable to him, and he just had a really good career at Iowa. He always seemed to be around the football. Like I said, he was just creating stuff. He's a playmaker, like bona fide, your classic dude on defense who just always seems to find the football. I love that about him, and that was the first thing I noticed when I stood out. Is just that, man, this guy's making plays. He's got 5 interceptions. He's forced 3 fumbles. He's 3 fumble recoveries. He's got 3 sacks. He's got a safety. He's got 2 touchdowns. Like, this guy's making plays all across the field. The next thing is that he has these great instincts, right? One of the best traits you can possess as a linebacker are great instincts, just because you're the guy who's always going to track where the ball is going. Your job is always going to be to find the football, right? Be in your gap and then find the football. And this can make up for any kind of perceived athletic deficiency, or even if you're out of play initially, but then you can see it. Your instincts get you back into the play, and he shows great instincts on film, right? So,
what do you mean by the athletic deficiencies? Are you calling the guy slow?
Well, Joe, you want to give us his combine numbers right now?
Yeah, so his 40 time was a 4.65. His 10-yard split was 1.6 basically. He had a 37 and a half inch vert. Broad jump, he had a 10.8. He did the shuttle, 20-yard shuttle, I believe. It's 4.24. And he had the 3 cone drill at 6.74.
So at 6'5", I'm going to tell you, those numbers are like incredible. He's a good athlete. I think people look at him and they go, okay, he played at Iowa. He's a linebacker. He's kind of downhill, old school. And like, that's why I said perceived athletic deficiencies. Like, I think there's a little bit of that there with him. At least the discourse I've heard around him. I'm not saying everyone's saying that about him.
Yeah.
But like in general, you look at his numbers.
On my notes, I said he looked a little slow, but he has good closing speed.
There are moments where he looks maybe a little slow or a little stiff on film, but this is where I say those instincts make up for that. And 4.6 isn't necessarily slow. It's not necessarily fast. It's about your average range for an NFL linebacker at this point. And in general, maybe you'd like him more in the 4.5 range. But like, again, I think he has the athletic goods to be a very good football player. Like, that's the thing. And then you look at his instincts and you look at all the plays he makes, and it's like, you know what? If he runs 4.6, but he's giving me 2 defensive touchdowns, why do I care? Like this guy shows up on film as well as anybody. So to me, those are the things that matter at the end of the day. And that's where I try not to be a combine warrior, or get into that game as much. Those things matter. I'm not saying they don't matter at all. They do matter. They give you a real barometer to compare, a point of comparison with players. But in general, if it's showing up on film, that's more important to me than those combine numbers. And so we look at it here. Here he is kind of in that like up position on the line of scrimmage. I believe this might have been against South Dakota State, I should say. And so here you go. You watch it. So he gets around. Oh, reads screen and then goes and makes that play at the line of scrimmage. That was dirty. He was supposed to run a stunt all the way back, a little game where he was going to come up, come back all the way around, and he sees the back leak. He feels the O-line releasing, right? And he just runs right into the play. That's a really good football play. Here's another one. He comes from top down, creates the fumble, finds the football, creates the fumble right near the goal line, right? Gives his team an extra possession. We'll watch it again. Here he is. Reading screen. See how he just stops himself?
Yeah, he catches the lineman going
He
out
feels it.
and sees the back too.
He feels it, right? There's a lot of guys who would have said, "Oh, open lane, I'm going to take this."
Yeah.
No. And look what happens if he does that. I'm telling you, if he hadn't done what he just did, this guy probably scores a touchdown.
First.
This guy's probably scoring a touchdown on 3rd and 8. And instead, boom, big time football play by Jack Campbell, dude. Here's another one. Here he is. He's going to come from the top of the screen here. Boof. Finds the football, knocks it out. Just great instincts. I think he plays with really good instincts. And if you think like I said, perceived athletic deficiency, if you think that is there, and in comparison, to be fair, in comparison to some of the other guys in this group, he is at a deficiency. Like, he's not quite as fast, his hips aren't quite as open as some of these other guys, but I'll tell you, his instincts and his ability to make plays, that stuff makes up for that, and I do see that enough on film that I'm ready to say this guy's a dude. The last thing that you see is he's got this like great strength and length, right? I mean, at 6'5", 250, playing Mike linebacker, yeah, that's real deal, Like, I mean, he's as big as some of the edge rushers we talked about the other day. So he's really good in his block destruction because he plays with great leverage. We've talked about like what those long arms, that length and strength. When you play with great leverage, you understand how to attack blockers, how that translates, productively. And obviously, being 6'5", he's a really long guy. So I just like his ability to defeat blockers in the run game. So we'll see a couple examples of that here. So this is him against Kentucky in their bowl game this year. We'll watch it in the Citrus Bowl. Out in space, boom. See how that guy does not go forward when he strikes it? Like, he packs a punch. When he tackles guys, they don't go forward, right? At best for that guy, he's going sideways. Same thing here, right? He tackles guys, he puts dudes on the ground. And when he attacks blockers, he's able to move blockers and get dudes out of the way to go make plays, as he did on that second play there. But there's just a couple of plays from this Kentucky game that I thought really good job of beating the block, then making the tackle, and not allowing guys to fall forward. I just think from that standpoint, he's really impressive. Joe, what was standing out to you when you were watching him?
So you talked about his instincts and his reads. I wrote that down for me. I said he had good hands and was able to find the ball. You talked about him having 5 picks, like pretty impressive being the middle linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I mentioned earlier briefly is his closing speed. When he was chasing down dudes, he was always gaining ground on them, making sure when he got there he would continue that tackle through all the way to the ground, But yeah, that's about all I could think of. This is going to sound funny to you. I don't know how many people understand it watching, but when I was watching him, he just reminded me of Bolt, though, in his stance.
Yeah, for those who don't have the context, we played with a guy in high school, really good dude. His name was Ryan Bolt. Man, that guy took football extremely seriously, especially when he was on that field. But yes, I see it. Ryan was a much smaller version of this guy. But yeah, deep in that stance, ready to go. Yeah. Yes, no question. I see it.
And then after watching those plays from the Kentucky game, that's the game I wrote down for him. Iowa won 21-0. He had 10 tackles in that game. 8 of those were solo, and he had a sack.
You saw it right there. You saw a couple of them right there in that film. Yeah, he had a great game. Great game. I mean, the guy had 290 tackles in his career. We're talking about a guy who pretty much year to year is
160. He's going on 265 of those were in the last 2 years, his junior and senior year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's going 100 tackles a year basically, and in those last 2 years, more than that. Like, he's that's pretty impressive. I mean, that's what you want. That's the kind of production you want out of your Mike Backer. And looking at how he fits, I mean, I think he's going to fit well in a defense that predicates itself playing more zone than man. Against the run game, I think he's solid downhill backer. He finds the football very well. We talked about that, his instincts. I think he does really well in his zone drops. Has a knack for being in the right place. And then, I think there were times like CJ Stroud, I think definitely underestimated his athleticism in that first throw that we saw, and he made that play, and I think early on, some people may do that. They're going to underestimate his athleticism. He'll be able to make some plays on the football. And he's really good at doing that in zone drops. I think if you make him play man against running backs, that is where some of those, what we talked about, like 4-6 versus, like for instance, a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, we talked about, right? That guy runs 4-3. Like that's going to be a tough matchup for him, right? So I think you try and avoid those things for him, which is fairly easy, schematically. And his length in the middle of the field is a huge plus when you're playing zone. All right. You have that long backer and he can jump 37 inches, right? So it's really hard to throw over him. And I think all of that is a plus for him. So right now, the guy who you reminded me of the most was actually Leighton Vander Esch. Guy who came out of Boise State a few years ago, playing with the Cowboys now. Has had a pretty productive career with the Cowboys. Here we go. Here's a couple clips of him in Dallas. But similar deal where he packs a punch, right? When he tackles guys, they don't go forward. He's really long. He's really strong. Very similar, like, measurables. And in terms of athleticism, like, very similar guys. Both kind of 4-6 range, can jump, right? Here he is in coverage, in zone coverage. Same thing. Like, he can make sneaky athletic plays in coverage where you're like, oh, yeah, he's got a little juice to him, and he's having fun after the catch, right? After the interception. But like, I think very similar guys where he, Vander Esch has been good in that Dan Quinn system, where he plays a lot more zone, like they're heavy cover 3. And so I think it makes sense. Jack Campbell is a guy who's going to fit like in a defense like that. And Leighton Vander Esch, early in his career, his first couple years, he really burst on the scene, was great, had kind of a lull. Then since they brought in Dan Quinn, has been better, I think, and and has revived his career a little bit. And I think Jack Campbell's a very similar style of player. Leighton Vander Esch went in the first round. Right now, Jack Campbell, from what I've seen, he's kind of that borderline late first round, mid second round pick. That's what I'm seeing. And a lot of the mocks, some teams that have, the Bills, they lost a big piece of their defense in the middle there at linebacker, so they need to replace what they lost there. The Eagles lost 2 linebackers in free agency. The Steelers, right, they lost Devin Bush. The Seahawks are a team that are on here. They just signed Devin Bush, so maybe that need is not as great for them. There's still kind of some rumors about Bobby Wagner there going back too, so maybe they become a team that isn't on this list, but for now they're kind of sitting there. But these are all, yeah, it's been talked about, but they just signed Devin Bush, so I don't know what that does to the Bobby Wagner rumor. Maybe that's now null and void. I don't know. But these are 4 teams that appear to be linebacker needy that I also think will play a style of defense. The Eagles are a little bit more of a wild card given they're going to have a new defensive coordinator, but a style of defense that probably favors Jack Campbell as well, where he would fit. They have an obvious need, and he would fit well, I think, and what they're trying to do. But any of those teams stand out as a fit for you, Joe?
I mean, I think there's one for the obvious reason. We're looking at the Steelers. My guy's already playing in the colors. You know what I mean? Nothing would change from. He would change cities. That's about it,
Yeah, well, I think it would be an easy transition to go from, Iowa, which I think University of Iowa is at Sioux City. I think that's where it is.
I don't know.
Or Sioux Falls. Well, I don't know. I can't remember now where Iowa is. My obviously American geography is not great. But to Pittsburgh, I think both kind of hardworking, blue collar. That's how they pride and market themselves anyway. Never been to either place
It's
personally.
Iowa City. Iowa.
Iowa City. Okay, so it's Iowa City. So I was close. Whatever. All right.
Yeah, I don't
People
I don't know
don't
much of that area, so
don't
your
kill me
guess
for
is as
not.
good as mine.
Yeah, guys, don't kill me for never having been to Iowa. All right, maybe I'll get there one day. So Iowa to Pittsburgh, Iowa City to Pittsburgh. I think it's a fit for sure. My shout out to my uncle, who's a huge Steelers fan, has actually told me about this guy, and I think he would not mind if the Steelers took him. Not sure if he wants them to take him with their first round pick, but maybe their second round pick. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think he's such a playmaker though that he should go within those top 40, 45 picks. I would be surprised if he's there much longer than that, because if he is, someone's getting a steal. So anything else that you saw with Jack, Joe?
Um, no, I think that's about it. I could give you a guy I thought of. Don't really know how it really compares. I wrote down Brian Cushing. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know
I mean,
how that comparison works out, but
Brian Cushing was like such an athletic freak when he came out of USC. I remember his career was a little bit underwhelming. Like, he was good, don't get me wrong. I just remember the projection of what he would be versus what he became. Like, didn't quite match up. I think that maybe an example of like expectations being so high that he might
yeah,
never reach them. But yeah, good NFL player for sure. That's not a bad comp. I don't know how they compare like physically. I don't remember if Cushing was as big, but like,
yeah, no,
yeah, I
that I
see
don't
it.
know. And then as you were talking about him, I had Brian Urlacher come to mind, but I mean,
Oh,
I don't know.
Urlacher. I mean, the way they both play the middle of the field, there's a little bit of that there. I'm not going to shoot you down on that. I see it. The
But
neck
yeah,
roll
well,
too.
moving on to the next guy, we're looking at Noah Sewell out of Oregon. He's 6'2", 246. He played there for 3 years. We got
Mhm.
33 games in that time, 212 tackles, 22 for loss, 7% on his missed tackles, a little bit higher. He's got 2 picks and 7.5 sacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, very, when we're talking about like the pressure rate with the edge rushers, that 1 or 2 percentage can make a big difference, right? If you're figuring
Yeah,
this guy makes 100 tackle attempts, that's 2 more missed tackles than the other guy at 5%, right? Or if it's
yep,
200 tackle attempts, that's 4 more missed tackles than the other guy at, sitting there. So that those percentages, 1 to 2%, can be a big difference. So it is something to kind of keep an eye on. So it's not like he's a missed tackle machine by any means. If he was, he wouldn't be in my top 5 sitting here,
yeah,
but certainly maybe not as reliable a tackler as Jack Campbell. Still making some more plays in the pass rush, right? He's got 7.5 sacks. The 2 picks are not nothing to turn your nose up at either. And, being 6'2", 245, it's about ideal linebacker size nowadays in the NFL. I think you don't want to be too big, because you got to be mobile. But we'll see. He does a lot. Noah Sewell, that's the thing. He does a lot. I mean, that's my first strength for him, versatility, right? If you
uh-huh.
notice, Joe, when you're watching him, lines
Moving
up all
lines
over
on
the
the
place,
edge
huh?
too. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, they did some stuff where they put him on the edge. They put him in the box, right? Like your
mhm,
traditional Mike or Will. Then they also did some stuff where they put him out in space, like what, we in our defense, the defense that I run, we call that guy like the jack, right? He's sitting kind of out in space, not quite attached to the box, but not on the line of scrimmage either, kind of out,
yeah,
apexing like the number 2 receiver and the tackle. And he did everything from he pass rush, he blitzed, and the difference, if you're asking me like what's the difference between pass rushing and blitzing, like pass rushing, he was on the line of scrimmage and he's trying to go one-on-one with the tackle, versus blitzing coming from depth, coming from that linebacker position. He played some coverage, and then he really, the Oregon defense, especially this last year, was kind of built around him. Like, they did a lot of stuff where he was featured. So he was pivotal to the successes that they had. You'll see some different stuff here on film. So here he is, big game, the Civil War against Oregon State.
mhm,
They line him up on the line of scrimmage, right? He looks like an edge defender right here. I mean, he is in this schematic version of what they're doing. He's an edge defender, right? So he's going to pass rush off the edge. This is what I mean by pass rush. He is actually going to come around relentlessly, goes and finds the quarterback. Kind of That kind of looked like Byron Young a little bit, right, from the other day.
Yeah.
Here's another one. He's blitzing from being out in space, beats the running back one-on-one, gets the sack. Quarterback falls down. It's college, so now here he is playing at true linebacker, and they want to throw the little sit route over the middle of the field, and he gets the pick and coverage, right? So, I said, it's both where he's lining up and what he's doing, right? Line up on the line of scrimmage as an edge. I'm going to pass rush. And my pass rush is proficient enough, I go get a sack. Now I'm going to get lined up in space against Washington State, and I'm going to come and blitz, come up and underneath, beat a running back one-on-one, get the sack. Right now, here we go against Stanford. Or Utah. I'm going to drop out from a true linebacker position, get in my little hook drop. I'm going to play right at the sticks. I'm smart enough to understand on third down they're trying to throw right at the sticks. I'm going to sit on that sit route, and I'm going to get the pick. Right, so he does a little bit of everything. So that versatility, extremely important, especially in the ever-changing NFL. Like, you got to have a little bit of that. We've seen guys who have come in the league, guy like Micah Parsons, who can do a little bit of everything, right? That's extremely valuable. It lets you change your defense, more of your defense week to week, something that like the Patriots have been good at for years, where they're able to just change what they do schematically week to week. Well, in order to do that, you have to have a player like Noah Sewell, who can play on the edge, he can play in space, he can play in the box, right? He can do it all. The next thing that shows up on film, he's really strong. Like, his strength shows up many times when he's fighting over the top of blocks, running his feet through tackles, even rerouting receivers. You see that quite a bit with him. So here you go. This is you got a couple good clips of him against Georgia in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game this year. Though Oregon,
I like the helmet at the top of the screen. Just the old school helmet.
The old school. Now, Oregon did get kicked off, if you will, but when they played this game. But Noah Sewell did actually have a pretty good game here. So here he goes. They're going to run wide zone, a little toss, and he's going to just keep fighting over the top of the blocker and goes and makes this tackle. Right, and initially he's actually out positioned, and he keeps fighting, and he's just strong enough. Again, here they go. Run a little toss play. Same thing. Strength at the point of attack, running his feet on tackle, on contact. Here you go again. Here he is on the edge. Another big time play on 4th and short against UW, right? Just running his feet on contact. So he's strong upper body, lower body. You can tell, they have a really good weight program, strength program at Oregon, and you can tell he's been in the weight room, does a really good job with that stuff. And it just shows up on film a lot, right? That's a huge strength of his, just being strong at the point of attack, being able to strike, lock out, run his feet on contact. You love to see it. The last thing is, Joe, now might be a good time for his combine numbers. What did you see? What did he run and do at the combine?
Yeah, so his 40 time was a 4.64.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit faster than Jack Campbell. He had a 1.57 on his 10-yard.
That's important.
Yeah. Let's see, 33-inch vert, a 9.7 on the broad, and 27 on the bench. I knew I was missing one. 27 bench press.
So this is the thing. He's, we talked about Jack Campbell maybe being perceived as an athletic deficiency, right? I would say Noah Sewell is much tighter hipped. Like, you can see that on film.
Yeah.
He's much tighter hipped, and he's not nearly as fast, and he can't open up the way like Jack Campbell can. Jack Campbell's 6'5", so that long stride. He's a long strider. He can open up a little more. Noah Sewell, much tighter hipped on film. Like, you see plays where he struggles to get out and run. But he's not the fastest player, but I will say this. He is very quick in terms of his play recognition with that initial burst. So you notice his 40 time, like, slightly better than Jack Campbell's, right? But what's very different is their actual 10-yard split, that initial burst, that first 10 yards. That's where he shows up on film and you see that burst. That does not surprise me that his burst was so much better than Jack Campbell's, because he does show that on film. That's what allowed him to make so many plays in the backfield, in 22 TFLs in 33 games. That guy's making every other game, more than every other game, is making a tackle for loss. And so we'll see on film here some of those plays, that quickness initially. Here he is against UW this year. Big game that Oregon lost, but he played pretty well. See the burst once he recognizes the screen to burst out. Here he is getting the TFL against Utah. Same thing. Once the play recognition combined with like that first step, is actually really good for him. Same thing here. Boom, and he finds it. I noticed that on film for him. Again, not the fastest guy, doesn't have the greatest hips, but what he does do is that initial step on recognition, he's really good at getting himself in position. So I do like that from him. Joe, what you have a game this year that you felt like stood out for you?
Yeah, so it was that Utah-Oregon game. Oregon won 20-17. He had 8 tackles, 4 of those were solo, and he had a pick.
That's pretty impressive. That you said that was Utah?
Yeah.
Yeah, he played pretty well against Utah. They got a Did they beat Utah the first time and lost it, or what? I can't remember how that went this year. Did they beat Utah? They did, didn't they?
They did in the game I mentioned. But I don't know.
They
Did
ended
they play
up
twice
they
because of
they beat Utah, and they thought they were going to play them again in the Pac-12 championship game, but then they
lost
blew
or
it
something?
against Oregon State. That's what they
Yeah.
did. They blew it against Oregon State, which allowed USC to play Utah in the Pac-12 championship. So, anyway, looking at kind of what Sewell can do for a defense, I think he's going to be best. His best football will be played closer to the box, despite some of the versatility I showed you in college. I think his best thing that he does well is kind of being that old school downhill linebacker. He's going to crush zone or man running schemes. Like, he's tough, he's physical, he's smart, he can play downhill. I'm not worried about him there. He's going to need help in the pass game. I mean, he's going to be more valuable as a blitzer, or even just standing him up on the edge as a pass rusher, than playing him on a whole lot of coverage. And that's where right now I think his greatest deficiency is being able to play in coverage, just because of what I said with his hips being a little tighter. He struggles to kind of pinball drop in zone. He's going to struggle in man a little bit, but man, let him play first and second down, downhill versus run. You know what I mean? Like, that part he's really good at already. So he reminded me of a Denver Bronco, Joe. Josey Jewell, who was a 4th-round pick out of Iowa, funny enough, a few years ago for the Broncos. And we'll look at maybe some tape here if I can ever figure myself out. There we go. So here's Josey Jewell against the San Francisco 49ers this year on, I believe it was Sunday Night Football. So when I talk about first place, recognition, that first step, and then just burst into the football, finishing tough, finishing physical, running his feet on contact, here you go. This is it. This is a big-time football play that he makes. Sees it, initial burst, boom, runs his feet on contact, TFL. I think, Josey Jewell, they have a similar comp in terms of their size, strength, speed, height, weight, all those things very similar. Josey Jewell is a really good downhill linebacker, not as great, and he's developed over time in the pass game, but that wasn't necessarily his deal coming in, and now he's developed that a little bit. And I think Sewell can develop that and likely will have to. But he right now is projected somewhere in rounds 2 and 3. Day 2 pick is what it's looking like. There's an obvious connection for him with the Lions, right? His brother being their left tackle for the last couple years. The Cowboys, I saw as kind of an interesting fit. They could use a little more linebacker help. The Chargers, I think he would be really good in Brandon Staley's system. And then finally, the Panthers, another team that he could fit in with what they're trying to build on defense. Any of those teams, I don't know. I have a feeling I know what you're going to tell me, Joe. Who stands out to you?
See what you think I want to say.
Well, I just had a feeling you were going to tell me the Lions because of the bros.
Oh, no. I was going to say the Chargers. Just keep them on the West Coast. Move south. Makes it easy. The worry about time change. Like
the Oregon to LA connection there, too. The Herbert connection.
Yeah, no. I mean, the Lions would be dope. I mean, what better? I mean, they did it obviously in college, too, right? He went to Oregon as well. So
he obviously feels like a Dan Campbell player, does he not? Like, downhill, old school, like those are the things I'm using to describe him. Crushing zone and man running schemes. Like, yeah, he sounds like a Dan Campbell player, even if his brother wasn't playing for the Lions, right?
Yeah, no fact. And then I think if anything, I don't know how I see even the Panthers picking up just a defensive dude in general. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a need I didn't know about, but they're still looking for a quarterback at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. He, again, maybe day 2, though, if they've drafted a
Yeah,
quarterback
yeah,
on day
that's
1,
true. That's true.
day 2nd and 3rd round, maybe that's where they're looking for him. But yeah, they're drafting a quarterback. That seems to be clear at this point. Who we have next?
All right, so the next guy we're looking at is going to be Henry To'o from Alabama. He's 6'1", 227. He played for 4 years. He got 2 of those were down in Tennessee. Sorry. He's got 51 games, 373 total tackles. 36 of those were for loss. 5% on his missed tackles. So just like Jack, he's got 1 pick and then 8 sacks.
Dude, Toto is like, he's a little bit undersized, but in general, one of the more productive backers in this group. Like 373 tackles. Guys, like, again, the guy
Monster.
played for 2 different programs, right?
Yeah. Very
And
consistent.
yeah, 2 different programs over the course of 4 years, and Gaia is going for like 100 tackles a year, right? And then he's going to add on, 8 missed tackles a year, 9 missed tackles a year, right? So, or 9 tackles for loss. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I was
9
like,
tackles.
9 missed. I was like, how did you
No,
get that off the 5%?
no, no, no. 9 tackles for loss, and then he's only going to miss 5% of his tackles. Like that's all of those numbers are pretty good, man. Like, and for being an undersized guy, then you better be extremely athletic and have great hips. And I'll tell you, he has it, right? So when you watch his film, like as a smaller linebacker, Toto makes up for his lack of size with just great athleticism and hip bend. Like he does this thing where he dips under blockers. He can like kind of sidestep and dip under, and he's just a
Yeah.
really good tackler because he sinks his hips. He has a really good understanding of like his body posture, and you can see he sinks those hips and drives up through ball carriers just the way you want to make tackles. Like I really did fall in love with this guy watching his film just because he's just such a good football player. I understand how and why Nick Saban was able to go get him from Tennessee because he does so many things, well that you want. So here he is against, I believe this is Vanderbilt or
Another
Mizzou.
note with his hips, it shows. You'll see right now. He doesn't ever over pursue on anyone. He's always squared up
Yes,
with them, and he's always able to bounce between if they're trying to make a juke
yes,
on him.
yes. There's a reason he only misses 5% of his tackles because he doesn't overrun things, right? And we're gonna see this when we talk about other guys in this group too. Like it's one thing to be a fast linebacker; it's another thing to be a guy who uses that speed efficiently. Here you go. Here you see him in coverage. See how efficient he is with his feet and his hips. Like just to make that play in Hendon Hooker in the open field, very impressive, dude. Like again, here he is. So he's coming downhill, and then he's got to open it up and run. Boom. Like that's open up those hips like that. And then same thing, dropping in coverage. He looks almost like a safety right there. That's
Yeah,
how efficiently he's moving his feet and all of that. Like I love his ability to have great feet, great hips. He's just very athletic for a linebacker. And when you're 6'1", 227 playing linebacker, you better be athletic. I mean, you have to be. So and he's not afraid to come bite either. He's got that, but he'll come down and he'll bite you. You know what I'm saying? What were
definitely.
his combine numbers, Joe? I'm curious.
So his 40 time was a 4.62. His
See, is it me though, or does he look a lot faster on film than the previous 2 guys we just watched?
no, definitely.
Yeah.
But
See,
it's
that's
still
that's an example of
slight
that
numbers right there.
that
Uh,
combine being deceptive. Those combine numbers, they can deceive you if you really watch the film. Certain dudes look faster, man.
yeah. His 10-yard split was a 1.57.
Yeah.
His
Okay.
20-yard shuttle was a 4.4. He had 9.8 on the broad jump and 32-inch vert.
Yeah. So, I mean, not not explosive athletically when it comes to the jumps, right? I mean, those are kind of pretty I'm not gonna say average, right? Like the average human cannot do the things he's doing, but like they're not like again. Jack Campbell is jumping 10, 8, and 37, right? So that's different, especially when you're 6'5", right? So Toto may not be the explosive athlete that like Jack Campbell is, or even Sewell, but what he does, what he's doing shows up on film. That's what I'll tell you. He looks faster on film than both those guys, quite frankly. And despite how many plays, and that's no shot at those guys. They're making a lot of plays too, but it just Toto looks like he plays fast. And part of that may be this next thing, which is that instinctive ability. I mean, I think a lot of linebackers who play for Nick Saban at Alabama seem to have this in common. And I don't know if that's just Nick Saban recruits those guys, and those are the kinds of guys he recruits. So there's a reason they all kind of are like that, or if that's they get to Alabama and they're coached up so well that they come out like that. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably a combination of both. They probably have a little bit of that, the nature versus nurture, right? They probably have some of that, but then it's also developed while they're there because that's such a great program. But he just diagnoses plays so quickly, uses that kind of elite burst and athleticism we're talking about for a linebacker to put himself in position to make plays. And again, I use that elite word just based on what I'm watching on film. It may not be what it shows up in those combine numbers, but on film, he looks explosive. So here you go against Ole Miss. So he's going to feel this motion, right? He's going to see this motion, and you watch just how he plays it. He knows it. He knows it's coming. He outruns the tackle, makes the play, TFL on a 3rd and short. Huge play, like huge football play against Ole Miss. Huge. Massive. Just and the instincts with the speed and burst to get there. Same thing right here. He sees it, zone, boom, come downhill. Here he goes right here against Ole Miss. Sees it, comes downhill. I'm going to go get the safety. Boom. Right? He sees plays before they happen and goes and makes it. So whether he appears fast in the combine or not, I don't know about you, but watching those plays, he looks pretty fast on film to me. Right? He looks pretty dang fast on film to me. So maybe his combine numbers aren't saying what I'm seeing, but I'm telling you on film, my eyes tell me he's very explosive, very quick, really fast to the football. Then the last thing is kind of something I alluded to earlier, which is that like he has that ability, like, you call it like sifting through the trash. Like he's able to kind of sift through blocks and avoid blockers without even having to put his hands on him until he absolutely has to, right? Like he kind of feel the offensive line. Yeah, like it's like he feels the offensive line in front of him while he's seeing what's happening in the backfield. So you can sift past those blockers to get to the football. And he just does that very, very well. So it's one of those innate things that guys have or they don't. And you're going to see here, this one is elite, right? They're going to run zone away from him. This tackle is going to come try and get him, and he can just shuffle, scrape, sift over and get under this blocker where he dips this shoulder, avoids even having to touch this guy, which is very smart, right? When you think about he's a smaller guy. If he is 6'1", 227, and he's playing against a tackle at Ole Miss that's likely 6'4", 320, who's going to win the battle when he puts his hands on that guy?
Yeah.
Probably that Ole Miss tackle, right? But he's able to dip that shoulder, use that great hip bend, and get underneath it and just go make the play. You watch it right here. Just great instincts, great like sift and block avoidance. Whoop! And he's right there to make the football play. Nasty play, dude. That tackle was sitting there looking like, dang.
It was like, how'd he beat me?
Yeah. Here's another one right here. Dips underneath on the pressure. Ooh, nasty. Again, he doesn't touch guys unless he has to. He's just very smart about understanding I'm 6'1", 227. In order for me to make plays, I have to avoid blocks without putting myself out of position, right? Because there are backers who avoid blocks pretty well, but they put themselves out of position, right? Like they take themselves out of their gap, so they can't go make plays. He does it in a way that allows him to go make plays. It's just very good stuff. Did he have a huge game last year or the year before, Joe, that stood out to you?
Yeah, so the game I went with for him, I had LSU versus Alabama. They lost by 1 in OT. He had 6 tackles, 3 of those were solo, and 1 was a sack.
Nice. That's a big time football game. If you look at where he fits on a defense, I mean, I think he fits in well in any scheme because of his combination of that like athleticism, instincts, intelligence, right? We saw it on film. Great at sifting through blocks in the run game, getting into his drops and zone coverage. He's one of those like true like modern off-ball linebackers in today's NFL, especially in the last 5 years where linebackers have gotten smaller. I think he fits pretty much in that mold. So a guy that Toto reminded me of was Matt Milano. Kind of a similar deal. Milano's got like 10 pounds on him, but very similar, like 6'1". I think Milano's like 238. So kind of a smaller linebacker, but quicker, great instincts. His similar deal with the block avoidance, where he just doesn't let guys get hands on him. Here you go, right here. Here's a good one of it against the team that loves to run the football, the Baltimore Ravens, right?
Yeah.
Here you go. Watch him. Just sifting through the trash, goes and makes a tackle, right? It's a big, big play. And it just, again, having that same kind of burst and quickness as a smaller guy, but to get over the top, feel it, sift through, boom, hit it when the back hits it. You see how, watch, I'll try and pause it here. See how he's kind of feeling like, okay, is this going to be the gap? And he's feeling the O-line, but he's mirroring the back, right? He's seeing the back, what's happening. Watch what happens, though. As the back keeps taking it wide, what does he do? He scrapes over the top, and then meets in the next hole. Like, that's elite stuff, bro. That's such good linebacker play to be able to do that. And that's the kind of stuff that you see on film with Toto that's very similar to Matt Milano. That just kind of elite feel for the game, instinctual ability to kind of mirror and find it, and then having those great hips to get underneath blockers, get over the top of them, and make those plays. Right now, projected to be a second or third round guy, very similar to Sewell, where he's a day 2 pick, according to most people. I think mostly because of his size, a little smaller guy, but teams that kind of seem to be in the mix for him, the Vikings, the Chargers, the Steelers again, and then the Jets, all being teams that, could use a linebacker and where he would fit for them schematically. Any of those teams, something that you'd be pleased with, Joe?
I'd say probably the Vikings, honestly. It's just, I always feel like their defense is always like the dudes with the chip on their shoulders. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They always have some sort of like, I don't know. You'd see it in their gameplay. They're all like really hungry. You know what I mean? And I feel like he fits that like frame for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think anybody, like, you're gonna get he's probably gonna be a guy drafted in the 3rd round, and a team's gonna get a day 1 starter though. He'll be that guy. Like, he's drafted in round 3, a little smaller, but a team's gonna get him in camp and feel like, oh, we got one. You know what I'm saying? I just think that's likely what his career is gonna look like. He's just gonna be a dude who's gonna start from day 1 because he's so smart and he's just got such great instincts. I think that's gonna show up in the NFL. So who we got next?
Next guy we're looking at is DeMarvion Overshown out of Texas. He sits
Another great name.
6'3", 229. Played for 4 years. Or sorry, 5. But he had COVID year in there, so he got 240 total tackles, 37 for loss. Missed tackle percentage of 8%. 3 interceptions and 9 sacks.
Okay. DeMarvion Overshown is probably like one of my favorite players so far that we've watched, like just to watch on film. He's very like you'll see, like, he's got 9 sacks and 3 picks, but he also has an 8% missed tackle percentage. And part of that is he's just so blazing fast. Like, he is one of the fastest linebackers I've watched on film in a while, bro. He is like, that's why he's so fun though. Like, he's a boom or bust kind of guy where he's either making a tackle for loss for like 10-yard loss, or he may miss it. Like, but he's so fast that that's the thing. Sometimes he like overruns some plays because he is so fast. Which is what we talk about. Like, Toto plays so under control, and there's another guy we'll talk about here in a second out of Clemson, Trenton Simpson, very similar to Toto, where they play under control with that speed. Marvion Overshown, sometimes he's a little out of control, but when he's under control, playing with this speed, dude is as good as they come. you look at like in coverage, that speed showed up big time for him. Like really excellent fluidity in his hips, natural ball skills. That's rare for a linebacker. 3 picks and 14 pass breakups in his career at Texas. And here you go. He might be the one linebacker in this group where you might say, "Hey, could he go play a little man coverage on a back, or can he also play zone?" Right. So here you go. This is in the bowl game. I believe not this past year, but the year before, if I'm remembering right. I guess who were they playing?
Like Purdue, maybe
Purdue,
Vanderbilt. I don't know.
Colorado. That's who it was.
Oh, another black and gold team.
Yeah. There's a million of them, right? See how he gets back in coverage, all this depth he gets. He's running with the guy like it looks like a DB, right? It looks like a safety. Here's another one. Pick to the house. He's gonna house this thing. Not quite close. Right against Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, big time play. But again, like just watch it. See how he opens these hips and he's able to kind of scoots back, but then he opens those hips, opens it up, and runs. That's like high level stuff for a linebacker. You just don't see that from a lot of linebackers, right? Like there's a reason this throw was made. He's thinking he can't get there. Here he is, same thing. He kind of moves his hips, reads the eyes of the quarterback, gets himself in the throwing lane, pick. Yeah, overshown. He's great in coverage, dude. For a linebacker, it's a real strength of his as good as he is in coverage. The next thing you see with him on film, got really good power. He generates so much power with his speed. So he's able to do a really good job of block destruction. He's just got these like super quick, heavy hands, like bow. And then in tackling, same thing. He generates a lot of force, a lot of power in his tackles because, what's that old physics deal? Volume or mass times acceleration, speed, whatever. Like that's it's just right. Like he's generating a lot of inertia, is what I'm trying to say. Right? He's generating a lot of inertia, a lot of power with all that speed he runs through with. Right? Clearly, I was not great at physics. He uses leverage and explosive hips to generate this power. He just, his natural speed, it avoids blocks. Like here we go. We'll let this play right here. Here he is against Oklahoma State. Boom. Creates the fumble because he just so much power on the tackle. Hits dudes with force, man. Here he is again. Watch this one. Bow. Yeah. He pops dudes, right? When he gets a shot, he pops guys because he's so naturally gifted, with his speed. What did he run at the 40, Joe?
He ran a 4.56 with his 10 yards being 1.59. He had a 15 reps on the bench press, 10-4 on his broad jump.
Yeah, see that 10-4? Yeah, he's powerful, bro. He brings he got a lot of power in them hips and he can run. He's running sub 4.6. That's pretty good. The last thing that we're gonna see here, he is the best blitzer of all these guys. He's like a rocket shot out of a cannon when he blitzes. Like,
yeah, that was my note. Quick at filling the gap. He's there.
Dude, his timing is perfect. Where he's moving like as a blitzer, there is an art to blitzing, right? If you start too early, I had a college coach that is like, dude, it's like you're showing up to the party and you're already trying to go home. Basically, right?
If you're too early,
like you're too early, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to show up too early. Like it's not good, right? But if you're too late, right? If you wait too long, you'll never get there. So you got to time it up. You got to be moving right at the snap. And like blitzing, it's all about timing, awareness, change of direction. And man, he's good at all that stuff on film. I'll tell you this much. Look at his ability to blitz. Here he is against Oklahoma. Watch this thing. Zoom. Parts the Red Sea, goes and gets a bucket. Like he's so fast, he's on you right away, man. And he wears a million armbands too. Love it.
Yeah.
Here he goes again.
Gotta have the swag.
Show. Like he is shot out of a rocket, bro. He's like a rocket launcher. West Virginia just smokes this cat. Here's another one. Boom. Against Baylor, smokes that cat too. Like
QB.
Yeah, dude, he's crushing all these guys on the blitz. Like he just he clearly it was something Texas did really well, and he loved doing it. Like he's a really good blitzer. He times it up really well. He's got great burst. All that stuff that you need to be a good blitzer. He has it. If I look at like what he can do for you defensively, he might be the most athletic linebacker in the draft. Just his natural speed, got that elite explosion, great hips. He's unique. That stuff makes him uniquely gifted in coverage and as a blitzer. He's going to be great in passing situations. He's going to need to be protected, I think, a little bit by the D line in the run game because he is a little bit smaller, not quite as strong as some of these other guys. Like I think even I would argue Toto looks stronger on film than he does. Like when it comes to beating blocks and being kind of like one-on-one, he really relies on his speed and athleticism to beat blocks and to get to tackles. So I think early on he'll need to be protected by a great D line, keep him clean, let him run to the football. If you do that, he's gonna look really good. You know what I'm saying? If like there's a D line out there that can keep him clean, he's gonna be really, really good getting to the football. And I love his speed. I love his athleticism. And like I said, I think he's gonna be great in coverage and just in passing downs in general, whether you're gonna blitz him or you're gonna let him play coverage early on, because those are the things he's just really good at. So he's Joe, did he have a game that kind of stood out? I want to see what his best game was this year too.
Yeah. So for him, I had Texas over KSU 34-27. He had 9 tackles, 7 of those were solo.
Nice. Yeah. And that's just like doing your job right there. There's no like, oh, he didn't have a sack, didn't have a pick. Like, bro, this dude just went and had 7 solo tackles in a must-win game for him, against the big time opponent. Yeah. That was a good one. He reminds me of a guy who I loved coming out about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, originally drafted by Houston. Forget where he is now, but that's Zach Cunningham, originally out of Vanderbilt. Played for Derek Mason at Vanderbilt. Really good football player, though. Here he is playing it a couple years ago with the Texans against Lamar Jackson. You're going to see how he times up the blitz. Very similar. Shot out of a rocket, too. He shows it early. Oh, no, he's backing out. I'm not coming. Here we go. I'm coming through. Boom. Zing. Right? I think Zach Cunningham is a tackling machine in the NFL. Really good job of just he uses that elite speed, very similar to Overshown. What he's done is he's become better at block destruction in the NFL, and he just gets to the football so often that he's a really good Mike backer in the league. And I think that's Overshown's ceiling right there. Like that's who he could become if he gets a little stronger, gets in that weight room, does everything right. That's where he could end up. So I think. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was gonna say, Cunningham ended up on the Titans after the Texans.
That's what I thought it was. I just couldn't remember if that was for sure. It makes sense. So right now, I think that perceived lack of strength has got him where he is. He's kind of a 3rd to 5th rounder. I think if you're getting him in the 5th round, though, you're getting a steal. Personally, I think he's a better player than a 5th round pick. I think he should be closer to that 3rd round, type of player. But teams that could use a player like him. What about the Bears, man? Roquan Smith gone. That would be a great player to kind of replace Roquan with. Again, the Panthers, another team being kind of linebacker needy. The Steelers, again, no more Devin Bush. They need another linebacker. The Colts being kind of a sneaky team. Like, I know they have a really great backer there already, but you can always use another one and a guy who maybe even if you use Overshown early as like a specialty player where, you play him with Darius Leonard, but you let him be the blitzer. Or, okay, Darius Leonard's going to blitz, let him cover, whatever, right? Especially if he early on, he's kind of a specialty guy that you use in passing situations, fine. But, I think he could fit there too. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, no, I agree with the Bears pick. They like you said, Roquan just went to the Ravens, and a couple years back, they got rid of Khalil Mack. So, they're always in need. They're growing up, at least they were a big defensive team. So
yeah,
you got to see if they can get back to that.
Yeah, and their head coach Eberflus is a defensive guy, so certainly I would expect that he wants to be good there. Who we have last?
The last guy we're looking at today for the linebackers is Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. He's 6'2", 235, played for 3 years. He played for 36 games, but played in all of them. He's got 155 tackles, 28 for loss, missed tackle percentage at 5%, no interceptions, and 12.5 sacks.
All right, so Trenton Simpson is an interesting guy because he's more of like
He's a
an
beatster.
outside linebacker, I would say. Like he's kind of that tweener where like I don't know if he's a true off ball like Mike kind of guy, or if he's kind of a will, but he could also kind of play out in space, but he also played on the edge a lot, like was really kind of like a pass rusher a lot. Like Clemson moved him around a bunch. You notice like his production, 155 tackles in 3 seasons, isn't quite as good as some of the other guys, but I think that's partially because he was playing on the edge a lot more. And then when a guy's playing on the edge, you can run away from him. Still, he had 12.5 sacks, so he had a lot of production that way too. So first thing that shows up on film, he plays fast, but he plays with angles. Again, it's like one of those things. You can play with elite speed, but it's another thing to be under control, having a great understanding of angles and using that speed efficiently so you don't overrun a play or miss a tackle because you're playing too fast. You know what I'm saying? He uses his speed effectively. So we'll just dive right in. Here you go. Here he's against who is this? Georgia Tech, right? He's out here, kind of that will position. Finds the football, boom. That may seem like a basic play, and if you want, it is. But I can't tell you how many times I've watched a linebacker overrun that exact play where the dude cuts back underneath him because he plays too fast. He overruns it. Guy cuts back underneath him, and it's a big play. And Trenton Simpson made it look routine, right? It looked routine because it was for him. Here he is right here. Boom. Look at the retrace. Dude tried to pull the okie doke on him, and he's just, no, he's disciplined. He understands angles. He understands leverage. Here you go again. It's against Georgia Tech in the kickoff game.
The field.
Boom. Look at that play on the screen. That's about as good a play as you're going to see a linebacker make, right? And I'll just let it play again while I'm talking in the background. But, like, he is very good at playing with speed, but playing with it where he has an understanding of the angles and how he needs to approach certain plays without being, allowing himself to overrun a play. Like many linebackers could have easily overrun that play against the quarterback right there. Similar thing here in the Georgia Tech game where they're throwing the screen in space. Like a lot of dudes would allow a really shifty running back like this to maybe right? And he's good. He doesn't let him do that. Does a really good job. The next thing is his processing speed, right? By that, I mean like the way he looks at information. So we have this thing we talk about all the time, APA, right? Absorb, process, and apply. Right? That's kind of like the learning process.
Okay, I was gonna say is absorbing information or
yeah. That's like your process for learning, right? You absorb something, you process it, and then you apply it, right? Gotcha. So the absorption is, whatever I'm being told that this is what's happening. The process is my internal thought that is happening while I'm being told that information. The application is then taking that information and doing something with it. Well, I just think Trenton Simpson does such a good job on film before and after the snap of seeing what's happening in front of him, processing that, and applying it. Like his APA is next level. Really good at identifying where's the ball and getting himself there. So it feels like he can make every play. Here you go. Like it's kind of another way of like we could talk about it, like instincts, all that also is true, but sometimes the instinctual stuff is like getting there before it happens. Like his thing is like seeing it and reacting in real time. Like his APA is it's really good. So here he's against Wake Forest. So yeah, he gets a run read initially, but he gets back and plays pass. Like that's rare for a linebacker. Here's again, boom, against Syracuse, reading the screen. Here's again, boom. These are hitting quick against Georgia Tech, right? But like again, his APA, yeah, he's able to figure out what's happening in real time and get himself to that spot, and he's so fast, right? just makes plays, dude, off the edge there. So is ability to absorb, process, and apply information, that the speed at which he does that makes him a very good football player. When you play defense, your APA has to be good, right? Like you could play offense because offense is scripted. You know where you're going. You know what you're supposed to do. Defensively, it's all reactionary, right? Everything is reaction to what the offense is doing. So if your processing speed isn't good, it's really hard to play defense. And Trenton Simpson's is like some of the best I've seen coming out of college. Like he does a great job of diagnosing plays and getting there. Last thing for him, energy and attitude. He loves the game. He plays with enthusiasm. It shows up on tape constantly, right? He makes big plays, give his team energy. He plays with an attitude that's infectious. Like that's just one of those, that's an intangible you can't ignore. You know what I'm saying?
True. Especially being a linebacker, like you need that guy to be there. That's normally the chauffeur of the whole defense. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's not the right word I'm looking for.
I like that. No, I like that. The chauffeur of the defense, bro. He's driving the car. You're right. He's driving the bus. Here he is right here. Watch this play. He makes against Miami. Bow! Comes out. And then he gets like, yeah, let's go, right? Like, I love that. You love watching that on film, man. If I could have a defense of all dudes like that, I would love it. Here he is again, chasing the ball, creates the fumble. They don't quite get it, but again, that's just like another energy, effort, attitude kind of play that you love to see. Here's again against Pitt. Boom. You'll see it better on the behind angle. He blitzes, makes a great play. Loving everybody up afterwards. Big time third down. He is on the edge. You see him. Yep. They're showing you how he's going to come inside. Boom. Like he just, love it. And that play, the way that plays, that's a TE, whatever you want to call it. Depends on who you're talking to, essentially. But it's a little pick and roll, right? And that's what the guy was diagramming up. He's really supposed to kind of set the pick for the end to roll off of him. But he does such a great job of doing his job that he's actually the one that comes free. And he makes the play. Those are things that you, like, when you see that on film, you know a guy loves doing his job. And again, I think nowadays you can't discount that. You can't like not take that into account and say, you know what? If a guy loves doing his job, it means he's always looking to get better. And I think you can see that on film. I don't even have to talk to the guy to know. Like I just watch him play and I can tell you he loves doing what he's doing. So what did he test at the combine, Joe? Because I know he's got to be fast.
Yeah, the fastest guy that we looked at today, his 40 time was a 4.43.
Yeah.
His 10-yard split was 1.55. And then he did 25 reps on the bench.
Whew, nice. So he's fast and strong.
Yeah.
He's fast and strong. I'm telling you, I knew he was fast again on film. He looks fast. You know, I think given all that, I should step in as a day one starter. Whoever drafts him, he's that kind of player. You know, he's worthy. I think he's worthy of a top 20 pick. I mean, I'm saying he's an off-ball linebacker. I think that's where he projects. But I think he can do a little bit like where you put him on the edge and let him pass rush.
Yeah.
He can make plays in the run game. He's got 28 TFLs. Make plays in the pass game, right? 12.5 sacks, 33% completions against him when he's targeted. So he's good in coverage too. He's great blitzing. He's great lineup on the edges, pass rusher, speed and motor, like all those things, bro.
He's got 5 pass deflections too, if you want to throw that in.
Yeah, there you go. Right? So all this is to say, he reminds me, like this guy was a borderline defensive MVP last year. Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is that weird kind of tweener, right? Micah Parsons is a little bit bigger than Trenton Simpson, but like that tweener who can play on the edge or like true off-ball linebacker. He's valuable either way. You can do different stuff. He diagnoses. He has another great ability to process information quickly, plays with that infectious attitude that you love to see, plays very fast but understands angles. Like all those things to me, they were very similar in my mind. Here he is. Rookie year, or 2 years ago, his rookie year, second year, can't remember. This year was his third or second, but this was 2 years ago, 2021, playing against the Broncos and Bridgewater.
Yeah,
3rd and 6. 3rd and 6 right here. Boom, comes up and under. Sack. Very similar to like what we saw that last play we saw with Trenton Simpson, right? Where just the pass rush, beating
They brought the
dudes,
house
beating
up.
blocks. Yeah, they did. Goes and gets him. But I just think the way that Micah Parsons can line up anywhere on the field and do so much for you, I think that's where Trenton Simpson's so similar and can be so valuable to a defense. So right now, people have him as a first round pick. I think he goes in that top 20. He's not getting out of the first round though. I would be shocked if he got out of the first round. He's that good. So you got teams like the Eagles, right? I mean, I know they drafted Nakobe Dean, who, by the way, I love out of Georgia last year, but they did lose Kaiser White and TJ Edwards. So maybe they need another guy. And Trenton Simpson can also do some pass rush stuff for them. So again, he's different than Nakobe Dean. So it's not redundant to have them both. I think that would be a filthy combo. And they've got 2 picks in the first round, right? So like they can do whatever they want. Like the Eagles are a very interesting team in this draft from that standpoint. The Bills, we talked about their loss at linebacker. They need another one. We've talked about the Vikings before. We've also brought up the Jets. So some repeat offenders here in terms of teams that need a linebacker. How do you feel, Joe?
Crazy. The Eagles would be a wild one to see because they already got 2 really good pass rushers, and you talked about getting the Kobe Dean from last year. You just get this guy in there, and there's too much speed out there, too much
Yeah.
pressure on the QB. Bills, I talked about them briefly earlier. Same thing with the Vikings. Jets would be interesting. Just they already had a good defense last year. They would just
Yeah.
be improving, so that'd be
Mm-hmm.
nice to see too.
Oh, man. Well, it's about that time, huh? We got to rank
Yeah.
these guys.
Did you want to go, or did you want me to go?
I think I had the honor of going first the other day, so I'll let you go first this time.
All right. So first off on my list, I'm going with Trent Simpson. Talked about it right now. Just he does everything. He's an all around guy. Great energy. My notes that I had for him: he's quick off the snap. He plays. He has great reads. Doing well with QB spy. Like I don't know what I could say bad about this guy. Next dude I had was DeMarvion Overshowed. I like the way he was filling the gaps. Like he's a really powerful dude, real strong, great reads, great hands. He had a couple picks. He had total 3, so I like that from him. But the next dude I liked, Henry To'o. He's a little bit smaller, but we seen how he still performs with his size. I think he's a good dude. My next guy was Jack Campbell. As much as I liked him being a leader for his defense, I just think he wasn't the guy I would want to look for. I don't know how to say that any other way. And then last was Noah Sewell. He's just a little bit slower. He he's stronger though. We saw him bullying people. Just out of the group, last guy I would take.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all 5 of these guys I think we're still saying are really good, but yeah, you're kind of you're being picky. You have to be
Yeah.
when you rank these guys, I mean, that's the deal. I think we had pretty similar lists. I just flipped Jack Campbell and DeMarvion Overshown, but like
Uh-huh.
I agree with you on Trenton Simpson. Guy's a dude. Not a whole lot of negative things to say about him. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of different things. Whoever drafts him, I hope they're creative. At 2, I've got Jack Campbell. Guy's 6'5", jumps 10.8, runs 4.6. Like not necessarily the fastest dude, but like that vertical at 37 and the broad at 10.8, like lets you know he's a better athlete than I think people are going to give him credit for based on his film. And there is stuff that shows up on his film that tells you he's a playmaker. I love that.
Yeah.
I think he can do a little bit of everything. So I like him at 2. At 3, I've got Toto. I love Henry Toto. I kind of, even though he's an undersized guy, I just think he has great feel for the game. I love his ability to get underneath blockers, make plays. I just think he shows a lot of that on film. DeMarvion Overshown at 4, super lightning fast for a linebacker. Going to be very good in what he does early on in terms of blitzing, playing in coverage. as he improves as a run defender, I think that's where you'll see him become has the potential to become an elite guy. And then at 5, Noah Sewell, very tough, very strong player, great in the weight room, shows up on film. If he can get a little more flexibility in his knees, hips, and ankles and become a better player in the pass game, a little bit better at changing direction from one way to the other, that's when you see he's a different kind of player. And I think he was really hyped up at Oregon. Everyone loved him. They know the older brother Panay. And so that was something that, I think he's got high expectations on him. But I think in terms of who he is as a player right now, he can do some things for you really well. He's got to get better at some other stuff. And then a couple guys who did not make my top 5 that I do like, Owen Pepo from Auburn. Really nasty dude on film. D. Winters at TCU. I love D. Winters. Got to see him in person play against Oklahoma this year. Like electric speed. Great. He's a great out of the box linebacker in terms of being a guy who plays that kind of jack. Like if you're putting him just outside the box and letting him play a lot in space, that's what he does really well. He had a great game against Michigan in the college football playoff. He had a decent week at the Senior Bowl before he actually ended up leaving and didn't play in the game. He left during the middle of the week during practice. So I didn't get to see him play in the game, which was a bummer. But he's a guy who I really like. I think he's freaky athletic. And then lastly, Drew Saunders from Arkansas, another dude who I really like. Good athlete, physical football player. I think all these guys are right there with Noah Sewell in terms of being close to being that 5th spot. You know what I'm saying? So I think you're going to get some good value. I think I've seen a lot of stuff. I don't think D. Winters is someone that people are really hot on right now based on mocks I've seen. I just think that's a mistake. I think he's good. I'm just going to tell you, I think he's a good player.
Give him a shot.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think all these guys are potentially pretty good football players. So
looking ahead to our next one, we're gonna be looking at O-lineman.
Yeah.
Is it only tackles? Is that, or is it all O-line across the board?
I think we were gonna look at tackles, and then we may have another day to be able to look at maybe some of the guards and centers. But I think we're gonna focus on the tackles, the premium O-line position. Something that
most important, protect the QB.
Yeah, something that I think a lot of teams are looking for right now.
Always.
So yeah, we'll have that coming for you down the pipe. I do have to take a little week-long break. I'm going to be going to Alaska. So hopefully nothing crazy pops off while I'm doing that. But when I get back, yeah, we're going to we'll talk the offensive tackles and get ourselves right,
Yeah.
So I guess it would be my turn, right?
Yeah,
to
the banger of the week.
The banger of the week. So I've not had a chance to listen to the Morgan Wallen song that you referenced yesterday, by the way. Not had a chance, but will. This week, my banger I'm going to give out. I can't remember if I talked about this or not. You know what? Okay, here we go. This is what I'm going to give you. Recently watched a movie that was a combination of hilarious, slightly stupid, kind of crazy, and sort of nostalgic all at once. All right, here's what it is. Cocaine Bear.
Oh, yeah. I saw you did watch that the other day.
Watched it. Pretty good. If your expectations are not like to see some kind of cinematic beauty when you come into the movie, then you'll be fine. Like, it's as stupid as it sounds. It's like, when I say stupid, it's like kind of Sharknado meets I don't know, like a mob movie.
Okay.
Like let's go like it's Sharknado meets Narcos meets Ray Liotta nostalgia, Guy passed away about a year ago. So this is I believe this is his last film that he appeared in. So, and love Ray Liotta, like one of the best dudes to ever play like a mob member on screen. Like he's just perfect at that role, he's great. So, and once again, he was good. O'Shea Jackson was also in the movie, also
Okay.
very good. I like watching him on screen. They had like a kid in the movie who was supposed to be kind of like the real comic relief. Didn't hit as much for me. No offense to the kid, maybe it
Yeah.
could have been the directing. I don't know. But it was also just like absurdly hilarious to watch a bear high on cocaine, like attacking people,
Yeah.
you know? So it was good for what it was. It was good. I would recommend it. Like, again, if you're just looking to sit and chill for an hour and a half and not have to think too hard, just enjoy what you're watching. That's
Yeah.
the movie for you. There you go. Cocaine Bear.
There you go.
But I think that's all we got today, man.
Yeah. Except for our guy Ray Ray kicking it out right now. Yeah.